Every time there's a hurricane, I see on all of the real estate Facebook groups that I'm in, and people start calling around. I'm trying to figure out where they're going to scoop up all these great deals. And I've seen a lot of people posted videos that say prices are going to crash because of all these hurricanes in Florida. So in this video, I'm going to give you the truth about what actually happens to real estate prices after a hurricane comes through town. As you can see from this house behind me, this house has tipped over not once, but twice. This tipped over during Hurricane Michael, and I'm going to tell you what happened to this house the second time around. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about my hurricane experience. I've been through several hurricanes. We've been through Hurricane Michael back on October 10th of 2018. That was a Cat 5. Did a lot of damage around here. Like I said, it tipped this house over just like this, damaged a lot of other houses in this neighborhood. And then right after Michael, we moved to the Virgin Islands, and we went through Hurricane Dorian, which is only a Cat 1. But that one ended up blowing the roof off of our house or just damaging the roof. And then after it did that, water intruded into the roof, got into our ceilings, molded our ceilings. Our whole ceilings were molded in our whole house. So that was, I've been through a Cat 1 and a Cat 5, both damaged our houses. Hurricane Sally flooded one of my houses. I actually lived in a house in Portland, Oregon, where they were doing some repairs, and a repairman was using a blowtorch and caught the side of the building on fire, and in a high-rise building burned up my apartment. So I've been through floods, I've been through fires, I've been through hurricanes, I've had wind damage, I've seen it all. And as far as the real estate is concerned, I own a mortgage company for 10 years, and I've been a real estate agent here in Panama City Beach for over 10 years. So I've got the real estate experience, I've got the hurricane experience, and so I'm gonna tell you guys what really happens to prices in the real estate market after a hurricane blows through. The point is, I've seen it all, and on this channel, I've also talked a lot about what housing prices are gonna do over the last 4 years. When COVID started 4 years ago, every other YouTuber was saying prices were gonna crash. I was the only one saying prices were gonna go up, and I was right. And then everybody said that interest rates were gonna go down, and I said interest rates are not gonna go down because interest rates historically have been sitting around 6–7%. That's where interest rates like to be. These things that I've been saying haven't been popular because everybody who's been waiting has been priced out of the market. Everybody who told me that I was wrong and I was an idiot has been priced out of the market. And so that's why everybody wants to believe that hurricanes make prices go down. And we're gonna tell you exactly what happens to prices. There's some ups and downs, but I'm gonna explain it all to you in a minute here. And the average person, they just don't know what happens. Like it's not a crazy thought to think that prices would come down after a hurricane. And actually, if you Google what happens to real estate prices after a hurricane, you get a sort of a mixed review of answers. In fact, let's go to our desk reporter, Jeff, and we'll have him pull up on the computer and show you exactly the top 2 things you get in the Google when you Google housing prices after a hurricane. So let's go to Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Jeff.
No, thank you, Jeff.
No, yeah, okay, thanks. So this is Jeff back here in the office reporting, and I'm going to show you guys what you find when you do a little bit of Google research to see what hurricanes do to home prices. As you can see here from the screenshot, if I Google, do hurricanes lower home prices, the first thing that pops up, following a hurricane, affected areas often experience a decrease in property values. The visible damage inflicted by these storms, coupled with heightened risk perception among buyers and sellers, contributes to this decline. So there you go. And then if I go, well, let's dig a little bit further, and I click on this very first article here from Vaster, which is a mortgage company in South Florida. It says, while the immediate aftermath of a hurricane may see a decline in property values, the long-term trends often tell a different story. As communities rally together to rebuild and fortify their defenses against future storms, property values gradually grow over time. But what this tells people looking to scoop up deals is that prices go down after hurricanes, and if you wait, prices are going to be higher. After doing a little bit more Googling, I found a second article from the Tampa Bay Times that says, how will Hurricane Helene reshape Tampa Bay's housing market? Now, as I'm shooting this portion of the video, Milton landed last night. So this article was written 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So it was written before Milton made landfall. So this was just after Hurricane Helene. And I actually saw a quote on the I saw something on the internet today. This house that they used in this picture has already hit the market. It says the still smoldering ashes of this house in Tampa Bay goes on the market for $257,000 or $259,000, something like that, which basically obviously is going to be the land value of this property. But just an interesting side note as I tell you a little bit about what this article says. I'll put links to all these articles down below if you want to read them for yourself. But this one talks a little bit more. They kind of went on the ground in Tampa and they interviewed some people and they talked about seeing all the damage and seeing their neighbors' houses being flooded, and people talking about, I never thought I'd leave the area, but I might consider it now. And there's an interesting blurb in here that they're talking to a family with the last name of Winter. It says, when the Winters family moved into Sunset Park in 1991, it was an affordable area. They purchased their home for about $80,000, but after each flood prompts rebuilding, often by real estate investors who build multi-million-dollar homes, she doesn't consider it accessible to the middle-class families anymore. She talked about as these houses get flooded and they build bigger houses, that it drives up the prices for everybody else, and there's less and less of these little Florida cottages, and the feel of these areas doesn't feel as quaint and old Florida as it used to. It goes on to say, rising tides and rising prices. The frenzy of rebuilding after disasters can prompt transformative community change, including shifts to home values, rent prices, and resident population. In a study published last year in the Journal of Environmental Economics and Management, which I'm going to put a link to that because that has a lot of really good information in it. Researchers analyzed 16 years of property data across various Florida markets. They found that after a hurricane hits, home prices temporarily rise and wealthier buyers move in. Let's scroll down a little bit more. It says the population turnover after storms can cause gentrifying effect. In the long run, rebuilding efforts could boost both home values and rent costs, which can prompt changes in sort of the social fabric of the community. And this is what I see happening a lot here in my local area too. When the houses get damaged, they if they tear them down, they build bigger houses, or they add a second story, or they add an addition, and they improve the properties, which makes them more expensive. And in this article and in the study, which I'll link to as well, they have empirical data showing that prices don't go down right after a hurricane, that they go up, and then long-term effects, they also go up. So let's go back out to our man on the beach, Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome, Jeff.
So unfortunately, the Tampa Bay Times article was a little bit more accurate on what's going to happen to real estate prices. And I'm filming this today where Milton is actually hitting. We're up in the panhandle, so we're not getting the worst of it, but all this wind is from Milton. So hopefully you can hear me. We're giving a real test of the new DJI microphone here today. But as you can see, I still got the house behind me here. And the point is about real estate and hurricanes is all real estate prices depend on supply and demand. So after a hurricane and houses get destroyed, it decreases the supply that's on the market. And you do get investors coming in who are looking for deals. And so that has an increase in demand. So decrease in supply, increase in demand does not make prices go down. It makes prices go up. You know, they already say we have a 4 million, shorting houses of 4 million houses on the market right now. And that doesn't take into effect the 10 or 20 million new immigrants that have come into the country. Depending on who you listen to, you get different numbers. But that 4 million shortage doesn't include those extra 10 or 20 million people. So we've already got a supply and demand shortage in general in this country. And so it gets worse in these hurricane areas, these beach areas, which are always in high demand. Everybody wants to come to the beach. And so hurricanes don't automatically make prices go down. The only, I could see some data sometimes that you can see where there's an initial drop in the prices. But that drop is just because when the damaged houses do come on the market, obviously they're gonna sell at a lower price. But what people don't realize is after a hurricane, you've got months and months and months, if not years, of people trying to get money from the insurance companies. You've got lawsuits involved. And so transactions come to a screeching halt. There are no transactions after a hurricane. People aren't selling the day after a hurricane, the week after a hurricane, a month after a hurricane. They've got to get all of the insurance, and my camera girl's blowing around. I can see the camera moving. They got to get all the lawsuits and the insurance claims all settled. And that takes a long time. I'm about to go to my friend's house to drink a bourbon with him right now because it's his birthday. And I think it took him 4 years to get his money out of the insurance company after Michael came through here. Hurricane Michael was in 2020, and he just got his hurricane money, 2018, and he just got his hurricane money this year in 2024. So these things can drag on for a long time. The same thing happened in St. Thomas when we lived down there. After Hurricane Maria and Irma blew through there. We had friends when we were living in St. Thomas that were 3-4 years after the hurricanes were still waiting for their money. There was lots of damaged houses all over the island of people that just never got their money to get them fixed. And the thing is, when you're waiting, like a week after a hurricane goes through, if you have water intrusion into your house from a flood, or your roof blew off, or your windows were all broken, you get water in the house, mold starts growing into the house. So then you got mold growing in there, and the problems just compound, and they get worse and worse and worse the more time that drags on. That's the short-term effects of hurricanes on real estate prices and housing. But there's long-term effects too. This isn't the greatest place to point this out, but you can see like these little townhouses right here. If they were to be damaged, they would tear this down and they would build 3 huge, ginormous monstrosity mansions. When these old little Florida houses and things that aren't built up to the higher codes than the newer buildings, when they get damaged, they get torn down and they get replaced with things that are bigger and badder and better, and they're built to better standards. But what that means is people with more money are coming down and buying these houses. And so when people say that they can't afford to live here, that's as the little houses get damaged and torn down and they build bigger, it's more expensive to build because of new regulations and new building codes. So obviously the prices go up and more affluent people have to come in and buy the more expensive houses. And the little old Florida houses that used to be here, those lower income, I don't call them lower income, but they're just not multi-bazillionaires that are building the big mansions. They're getting pushed farther inland. So that makes long-term prices continue to go up, and they just start building and building and building and building and go up. And then some people say, well, at some point, nobody's going to be able to live at the beach. But that's not true either, because these houses, like this house that's tipped over behind me, that's probably a $3 million house. And if you drive 15 minutes down the road and you go to 38 in Rosemary Beach, that's a $6 or $8 million house. And if you go 5 more minutes up the beach from that, it's a $12 or $15 million house. So if it just got so expensive that nobody could afford them, the guy with the $15 million house could just sell his house, come over here, buy this house for $3 million, and then he doesn't care what his insurance costs anymore. So to say that it's just going to get too expensive, nobody's going to be able to buy beach houses, I don't think is true. Places like this where we're way less expensive than some of the other places, like in South Florida even, there's going to be people who can afford to pay $3 or $4 million for a beachfront house, and they don't care what the insurance prices are. So even though they say insurance prices are going crazy, people still want to be at the beach. And you know, when you've got a hurricane that blows through here, when Helene went through and went all the way up through North Carolina and Tennessee and ravaged houses, it's hard to say like nobody wants to live at the beach because it's too dangerous, when a hurricane caused a mudslide and took out your mountain cabin in the woods in the mountains of Tennessee or North Carolina. So, you know, everywhere in the country, there's fires out west, there's earthquakes in California, there's tornadoes in the Farm Belt. I'll put in a picture here of a map that shows every single hurricane that's happened in the US since the 1880s. And you can look on the map and there is a hurricane that went right through the middle of Iowa. So, I mean, from the eastern seaboard all the way down through Texas, even on the west coast down there through Mexico, there's hurricanes that happen all over the place. So insurance is going to be a big question. I haven't heard anybody else saying this, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine today, and I think what they're going to just have to do if hurricanes are going to knock houses down in Tennessee is they're just going to have to raise prices nationally on hurricanes. There's a point where they can't just get all the money for hurricanes out of Florida or Texas or North Carolina. You know, the way insurance works is they take a pool of money to fix a house here when there's a tornado in Iowa. Well, there was more people in Iowa that they got insurance money from, so they can afford to fix it. They're just going to have to do it, I think, on a national level. So speaking of tornadoes, I told you I was going to tell this story of this house that tipped over back here. This actually was a tornado that came through here in January, which was a super rare thing, but it came through here. It damaged all these houses. These houses had to get all their roofs replaced, and it knocked that house over onto the other house. And the reason they were going to tear it down like a week after it happened, but they're in a lawsuit because the house next door that it's leaning on, he said, hey, we're going to fix any damage that we've done to your house, but we want you to sign this waiver that says if we do any more damage in the demolition of this house, that we're not responsible. And the guy was like, what? He's like, your house is leaning on my house. Of course, I'm not going to sign that because you could do further damage to my house. And so you're going to be responsible for that. And so now this is the rumor that I've heard. I don't know. I haven't verified that it's 100% true, but I've heard that that's why this house is still here, that they're squabbling over a lawsuit about who's going to be liable if any damage occurs during the demolition of that house. So today is October what's the date today, camera girl? October the 8th, I think, 8th or 9th, whatever day Milton's coming into town here. So it's been 10 months that this has been sitting like this because of a lawsuit. The windows were open in the front, if you didn't notice. So it's just the back doors are all open there. So it's just open to the elements. They're just going to get torn down and demolished. But that was a tornado. So there's just lots of crazy stuff. And then, like I said, there's lawsuits and there's insurance claims, and these things take a long time. And the bottom line of this whole story is that hurricanes do not drive down the prices of real estate. I know when people ask this question in the real estate forums, everyone says you're an insensitive jerk because you're asking these questions the day after the hurricane. So maybe everybody can watch this video and they don't have to ask these insensitive jerk questions, and you can get a little bit of education, because it's, like I say, it's not a crazy idea to think that you might be able to get deals after a hurricane, but the truth is hurricanes drive the price of real estate up. I hope you liked this video. If you did, I hope you'll give me the big thumbs up down there, and you'll consider subscribing. And if you like this video, go watch this video next. I just did a video about 8 things you can do to future-proof your retirement. Whether you're about to retire, you're already retired, you're retiring in 10 years, these 8 tips will help you retire faster and help your money last longer in retirement. So thanks for watching.